Lyra shivered as she clutched the small puppy to her chest. Its tiny body trembled as if it knew it was in danger. The village around her looked silent and strange under the purple sky. The low clouds hung heavy, and the wind brought a cold chill that made her teeth chatter. Her mother was sick again, and this time the sickness seemed worse than before. Lyra did not understand the illness fully, but she could feel its weight pressing down on her. Her mother had barely enough strength to sit up, let alone care for the little puppy they had rescued a week ago. She walked slowly toward the edge of the village, her bare feet crunching over the rough, uneven ground. Most of the other villagers were busy with their own problems. The supply lines were short, and the stores were nearly empty. Every family had to ration whatever food they had left. Lyra's heart ached as she looked at the tiny puppy, which whimpered again. Its eyes were wide, full of trust and fear at the same time. Lyra had no idea what to do. She had asked her mother for advice, but her mother could only whisper, "Be brave. Find help." A shadow moved nearby. Lyra looked up and saw a human walking slowly into the village. Humans were not common in this colony. They were known to arrive from other planets for trade or work, but they rarely stayed. This one was tall, with broad shoulders and a quiet face that looked both strong and tired. Lyra's heart beat faster. She had never approached a human before, and the thought of being ignored, or worse, made her nervous. But the puppy's whimpers pulled her forward. "Please, sir," she called softly, her voice shaking. "Please, give our puppy something to eat. Mom is still sick." She held out her hands, showing the small, trembling creature. The human paused, looking down at her. His eyes were calm but curious, and for a moment, Lyra felt fear and hope clash inside her. The human knelt down slowly. He looked at the puppy with a careful, patient gaze. "This little one needs food?" he asked in a gentle voice. Lyra nodded quickly. She had expected the human to turn away, but instead, he reached into his pack. From it, he pulled out small nutrient cubes, the kind humans carried for emergencies. Lyra watched, her breath catching in her chest as the human placed the cubes near the puppy. The puppy sniffed at the cubes hesitantly at first, then began eating eagerly. Its small tail wagged, and Lyra felt a flicker of hope in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but the human only nodded. He seemed to understand more than words could say. "You should be careful bringing it here alone," he said, his tone calm but kind. "Your mother, she's not well, yes?" Lyra nodded again, her eyes wide. "Yes. She cannot walk to the fields anymore. She cannot gather food. She can barely eat," she admitted. The human listened quietly, not interrupting, as if every word mattered. Kale, as he would later introduce himself, glanced around. The village was in worse shape than he had expected. Empty fields, low water, and tired villagers who moved slowly under the weight of their survival. It was clear this was not just a problem for Lyra and her mother. It was a village in crisis. Yet what drew Kale's attention most was the courage in Lyra's small frame. She was only a child, yet she had taken the responsibility of saving her puppy and helping her sick mother. "I can help," Kale said finally. Lyra's eyes widened. She had not expected him to say that. You can?" she asked, hope spilling into her voice. Kale nodded. "But I need to see what you have and what you need most." Together they walked slowly to Lyra's home. Inside, the air smelled faintly of herbs and sickness. Her mother lay on a thin mat, pale and weak, but her eyes brightened when she saw Kyle. "This is kind of you," her mother whispered, her voice soft but strained. Kale nodded and asked her questions carefully about food, water, and supplies. She explained how the river had been blocked by a landslide recently, cutting off much of their water supply. Fields were dry and food had become scarce. Children and pets went hungry most days. Kyle listened closely, his mind already turning over solutions. He spent the next hours moving quietly through the village. He gave Lyra and her mother the nutrient cubes he had, making sure the puppy and her family had enough to eat for the next few days. Then he inspected the surroundings. He discovered that a small river, which had once flowed freely into the village, had been stopped by fallen rocks and debris. The blockage had reduced water levels for the village crops and livestock. Without water, the village would not survive the next few weeks. Kyle knelt by the blocked river, studying it carefully. He began gathering materials that could help redirect the water safely. Stones, logs, and whatever tools he could find were put to use. Lyra watched him work with wide eyes. She had never seen a human handle a problem so calmly and efficiently. Each movement was precise, each decision thoughtful. Even the villagers, who had been skeptical of humans, began to gather around to watch. As Kale worked, he also began teaching Lyra small things about survival. How to filter water using simple materials, how to check the quality of plants before eating, and how to make a temporary shelter in case of sudden weather changes. Lyra absorbed every word eagerly. For her, it was like learning magic, though she knew it was human knowledge. By the evening, Kale had cleared a small channel, allowing water to flow back into the village. Lyra's mother was able to drink and wash with clean water for the first time in days. The puppy curled up happily beside her, full and warm. The village seemed lighter somehow, as if Kale's presence had brought not just help, but hope. The villagers began to talk quietly among themselves, realizing that one human, by simply caring and thinking carefully, could solve problems that had seemed impossible. Lyra's heart swelled. She had trusted the stranger with her plea, and he had delivered more than food for the puppy. He had given them a chance to survive. As night fell, the purple sky darkened and the stars appeared, scattered like tiny diamonds across the heavens. Kyle stood at the edge of the village looking at the horizon. He noticed a faint blinking signal coming from the old communication tower nearby. It was weak, almost like a whisper, but it was there. Someone, or something, was calling. Lyra ran to him, curiosity shining in her eyes. "What is that?" she asked. Kale studied it quietly. "I'm not sure," he admitted, "but it could mean that help or danger is coming. We need to find out what it is." He smiled at her reassuringly. "Don't worry, Lyra. We'll face it together." That night, Lyra lay down beside her puppy, her mother resting nearby. She thought about the human who had come into their village and given them hope. She thought about the courage it took to help strangers when it wasn't easy. And she realized something important. Humans were different, yes, but sometimes different meant strong, clever, and capable of amazing things. Outside, Kale kept watch by the communication tower. His mind raced with possibilities. Was the signal from another village in need, or something more dangerous in the wildlands beyond? Whatever it was, he was determined to face it, not just as a protector, but as someone who could make a difference. The village slept under the alien sky, unaware that the arrival of one human had already begun to change their future. Lyra, her puppy, and her mother had survived one day, but tomorrow could bring more challenges. Kyle knew that human courage, ingenuity, and compassion would be needed in the days to come, and he was ready to give all of that, and more. As the first light of dawn crept across the purple horizon, the village seemed to breathe easier. A single human's choice to help, to feed a small puppy, to care for the sick, had begun a ripple effect. And somewhere in the quiet of the night, the faint signal continued to blink, promising new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities for heroism. Kale's journey and the village's story was only just beginning. The faint signal from the old communication tower blinked steadily as Kale studied it. He could not tell exactly what was sending it, but he knew it was important. The village needed help beyond what he could provide alone, and something about the signal made his instincts alert. Lyra stood nearby, clutching her puppy close to her chest, her eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of worry. "Should we go see what it is?" she asked quietly. Kale nodded, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Yes, but we must be careful. It could be trouble. But I promise you, Lyra, we will find out and make sure the village stays safe." The puppy whimpered softly, sensing the tension, and Lyra stroked its fur to calm it. They moved toward the tower together. The night air was cool, and the soft glow of alien plants lit their path. Strange creatures watched from the edges of the forest, but none came close. Kyle knew that on this planet every creature had its place, and most would not approach humans without reason. Still, he kept his senses sharp. When they reached the base of the tower, Kale examined the structure. It was old, rusted in places, but still standing firm. The signal was coming from a small device attached near the top. Lyra tilted her head, confused. "What is that?" she asked. "It's a message beacon," Kyle explained. "Someone is trying to send a message, maybe for help. We just have to find a way to reach it." Kyle searched around and found a few sturdy metal poles and ropes left behind by previous workers. He worked quickly, setting up a safe way to climb. Lyra watched him in awe. She had never seen anyone so calm in the face of potential danger. Finally, Kale began his careful climb, checking each step, ensuring that nothing would fall or break. The puppy barked once, excited and anxious. Lyra laughed softly, feeling a bit of relief in the small joy. Reaching the top, Kyle retrieved the device. It was a small transmitter sending a simple distress signal. A faint voice crackled through as he activated it. "Hello? Is anyone there? Please, we need food and water. Our colony is cut off by a landslide. Please respond." Kyle's jaw tightened. Another colony was in trouble, much like this one had been. He felt a surge of determination. He would not let them suffer as Lyra's village almost had. Kale descended carefully and showed Lyra the device. "They need help," he said. Lyra's eyes widened, but she nodded. "Can we help them? Like you helped us?" she asked. Kale smiled gently. "Yes, Lyra. Humans can do amazing things when we work together. But we need a plan." The next morning, Kale organized the villagers. At first, they were hesitant. Many had never worked with a human so closely, and some doubted if they could really help another colony. But Kale's calm confidence was persuasive. He explained the plan. They would gather materials to clear the blocked river, carry supplies to the other colony, and set up temporary shelters and water systems. Lyra helped by showing him the best paths through the wildlands. Kyle taught them step by step. First, how to clear the rocks safely without collapsing the landslide further. Second, how to carry water in containers to the other colony without spilling or wasting it. Third, how to protect themselves from the local wildlife. The villagers listened and learned quickly. They were amazed at Kale's knowledge and patience. Each human action seemed small, but together they became powerful. For the next few days, Kyle and the villagers worked tirelessly. They built simple rafts to carry water across streams, repaired tools that had been broken, and gathered what food they could spare. Lyra and the puppy ran errands, carrying small supplies, their energy keeping the group's spirits high. At night, Kyle sat by the campfire and taught the children simple survival techniques, how to read the stars for direction, how to identify safe plants, and how to make simple signals in case of danger. Finally, the day came to travel to the other colony. Kyle led the group, walking carefully over the rocky terrain, with Lyra and the puppy close behind. The sun rose in shades of orange and pink over the purple horizon. They could see the other colony in the distance, small lights twinkling in the early morning. But the path was not easy. Loose rocks and sudden drops made the journey dangerous. Kyle's calm guidance kept everyone safe. He moved with a confidence that inspired the villagers to trust him completely. When they arrived, the other colony greeted them with relief and gratitude. Their situation was worse than they had realized. The landslide had cut off their food and water completely. Kale and the villagers quickly distributed supplies, teaching them the water filtration techniques and showing them how to use simple tools to dig channels for the blocked river. The children of the other colony watched in awe as Lyra shared what she had learned. The puppy ran around, bringing small smiles to everyone's faces, reminding them of hope even in the darkest times. Kyle stayed with the colonies, helping both villages work together. They cleared more rocks, reinforced the river channels, and built temporary shelters that could withstand the harsh weather. He taught them to communicate using simple signals and shared methods to keep their crops and livestock safe. By the end of the week, the river flowed freely, water reached both villages, and food was being distributed efficiently. The villagers began to see the true power of human ingenuity. It was not just strength or knowledge, it was creativity, patience, and a willingness to act even when the outcome was uncertain. Kale's actions had shown them that humans could solve problems that seemed impossible, and that even small actions, like feeding a puppy or carrying water, could ripple out to create real change. Lyra's mother recovered fully, sitting outside her home, smiling at her daughter and the little puppy. Lyra ran to Kale, hugging him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. Kale smiled and ruffled her hair. "You helped too, Lyra. Remember, courage and kindness make the world stronger." The puppy barked happily, jumping around them. Kyle knew his work was not finished, but for now, he had made a real difference. The villages were safer, stronger, and more united. Humans had shown that they were not just outsiders. They could bring knowledge, courage, and hope to those who needed it most. The children played together across the villages, learning from each other, and adults worked side by side, inspired by the human who had shown them a better way. As the sun set, painting the sky with shades of purple and gold, Kale looked over the villages. He felt a quiet pride. One human had made a difference, and in doing so, had reminded everyone that no challenge was too great when people worked together. The puppy curled up beside Lyra, warm and safe, while the villagers celebrated their new life with food, laughter, and hope. Kale had come to a small, struggling village with nothing but determination and knowledge, and he had sparked a chain of survival and courage that would last for generations. The HFY truth was clear. Humans were not just survivors, they were problem solvers, protectors, and bearers of hope in the darkest times. Even a single human could inspire a village, save a life, and bring light to a world that had known too much shadow. And as the first stars appeared in the alien sky, blinking softly above the two villages, Kale knew that their journey was only beginning. New challenges would come, but humans had shown their greatest strength, the courage to act, the ability to care, and the creativity to overcome any obstacle. For Lyra, the puppy, and the villagers, that meant the future was bright, full of hope, and filled with the knowledge that no matter how far from home they were, humanity could always make a difference. The night was quiet, peaceful, and full of promise. Kale watched the stars, knowing that wherever there were people in need, humans could rise to help. And sometimes, it all started with feeding a small puppy and believing that even the smallest actions could change the world.